This is the SBGA471, a recent release from the Heritage Collection from Grand Seiko. It is a USA exclusive edition and the retail price is $6,000. Now, in my opinion, this is a subtly brilliant release. It's absolutely beautiful. This is the SOKO Frost dial. It's inspired by autumn's first frost. If you go to the Arashiyama forest, you'll see trunks of bamboo trees, vertical trunks of bamboo. And if you see them when they've first been frosted in autumn, they're supposed to look similar to this vertically brushed silver hint of blue dial on this 44GS case design, or in this case design. Now, personally, I have no idea if the brilliant designers in Grand Seiko are just making magnificent dials in the Shinshu watch studio in Japan and then trying to come up with stories to match what they've created, or if it's the other way around like they state on their website. I don't know, and I don't care, because the end product is so brilliant. It's so fun, it's so clean, it's so beautiful, and it's very unlike what other brands are doing at this price segment. And I've always thought that Grand Seiko excels in their dial work. They excel in their movements in terms of what they offer: high accuracy quartz and high beats and true GMTs and spring drive. This one is a spring drive. This carries the 9R65 movement within this 44GS case. And I've also thought that with their original designs, they do an exceptional job of finish work when it comes to the case. We have zaratsu polishing here on this design dating back to 1967 in its design DNA. There are drilled lugs. We have a pleasant dimension at 40 millimeters of diameter. 46.2 is the lug to lug dimension, 12.9 in overall height. So it's not very thin and trim, but it's comfortable, and it has great presence on wrist. And just for reference, my wrists are 7.25 inches in circumference. There are 19 millimeter lugs, and we have a 1 millimeter taper on this 5-link bracelet design with screw links, 2 half links, a very nice signature in the push button clasp, and the case will come with 100 meters of water resistance and a screw down signed crown with a 3 o'clock position. So this looks very dressy, very elegant, very beautiful, very refined. Subtly brilliant is the term that really comes to mind as I've spent time with this 471 from Grand Seiko. And I would say that this is not just a dress watch. You could wear this every day. You have anti-magnetic properties in the spring drive movement. You have water resistance and a screw down crown. You have a very accurate movement. You have a sapphire crystal. You have anti-reflective treatment. There is a lot going for this for use as an everyday type watch if you like the aesthetic. If you want something more sporty, obviously you should go with a dive watch or a chronograph, something else that carries ceramics and different things. But if you like this aesthetic, you could absolutely wear this on a daily basis. And I wouldn't blame you, because it's beautiful and there's a lot to like here. But I don't want to get too overly positive about this piece. I don't want to hype it up. Let's talk about the details, and then we'll talk about areas for improvement. We have a beautiful, subtly grained dial that if you look on Grand Seiko's website, you would think that it's a baby blue dial, because that's what the renders look like. But in the flesh, in the metal, so to speak, it's almost silver. It's very desaturated, which personally, I thought was a little bit disappointing at first, because I was wanting a little bit of blue. I wanted that blue to come to play. And in most lights, this is more silver than it is blue. But you do notice the thermally blued seconds hand and power reserve indicator hand. And then the power reserve indicator definitely carries that more saturated baby blue look. But the rest of that vertically brushed dial is very silver and very subtle and very desaturated. Now, it's a good backdrop for these mirror polished faceted markers that I can only describe with one word, and that is perfection. You don't see any imperfections here. You don't see any uneven finishes. And it's impressive because these are very small when you think about it. And to get the mirror polish, the perfect finish here on such a small level, on a minute level, that's just impressive. In fact, you look at this and you almost wonder in these macro shots if I'm showing you a computer-generated image, because they do look so perfect and there is nice light play. And I think they work well in conjunction with the sharp Dauphine style hands that you swear you could cut yourself with, because they look so clean and so sharp. and so well finished. Now we have again that blue seconds hand and blue power reserve indicator hand. We have an applied logo that's black polished. So in certain lights, you see that stainless steel tone. And then in other lights, it looks totally black and it matches the clean black printing on the Grand Seiko text and the spring drive text and the indexing found around the circumference of the dial. Now I like the fact that we have a widescreen date. That's something that you'll only find on spring drive. You won't find it on mechanical from Grand Seiko or any of their high accuracy quartz models. And I love when you're in the early part of the month and all of the dates are single digits, because Grand Seiko stretches those single digits to fill that rectangular void in the date aperture. And I love that style. So if you go to Grand Seiko's website, you'll look at all the renders for spring drive. They'll always use the date 6. And I don't know, just because that elongated 6 looks cool. And you look at Rolex, they'll always use 28. And that just doesn't have the attractiveness, I think, as the stretched 6 in a widescreen spring drive date aperture. So that's kind of a cool thing that I appreciate. Now let's talk about the movement. We have the 9R65 spring drive movement, accurate to a window of plus or minus 15 seconds every month. So very well dialed in, completely smooth in the sweep. And I've heard critiques or criticisms that the spring drive movement just has no soul. You don't see the ticks, right? You don't see the starting and stopping of the seconds hand. And I would say that there is an allure about this that maybe is more appealing than the traditional, soul of a mechanical movement. This is taken to the next level. And I don't know, it's kind of mesmerizing, don't you think? I love the smooth sweep. I love the 30 joules, the 4,800 amperes per meter of anti-magnetic resistance. And then we have a 3-day power reserve, which you can note the amount of power you have left in the movement by the power reserve indicator on the face of the dial near the 8 o'clock applied marker. And I know some watch enthusiasts don't love the power reserve indicator, but I don't mind it. I think because I don't wear the same watch every day. If I wore this watch every single day, I would know, yes, I'm operating on a full power reserve. But I think, like most watch enthusiasts, I wear a few different watches in the course of a week. And so when I'm changing in between watches, I just find it practical to, at a glance, see how much power I have left in my 3-day power reserve. So I like the indicator, but I can definitely understand, though, the point of view from those that want that removed from the face of the dial. Now, continuing here, we have a 5-link bracelet design with 2 half links. We have no micro adjustment in the bracelet. We have a 1mm taper, a nice logo found on the clasp. And I think it works pretty well with the 44GS case. It's not a perfect marriage. I think this bracelet design better fits some of the other cases that are a little bit more rounded and less angular and less harsh in the lines, in the case lines. And so I think this might be better suited if it had a more angular bracelet, but I'm not going to nitpick because I do think it looks beautiful and I think it does work, but it could work a little bit better if that makes sense. Now, here's the negative here. The 5-link bracelet design, it's not Grand Seiko's best. They have upgraded the bracelet in their 9 series that's more solid. It has more of a Swiss feel to it, if that makes sense. And this one carries a little bit more flex and play. And I think if you're used to Swiss luxury, say you're wearing Rolex and you're wearing Omega and IWC, you might be disappointed with the feel of this bracelet because it's very different. It's functional, it's well finished, it's comfortable, it gets the job done, but it's not satisfying in the same degree that, say, a Rolex bracelet is, or a German brand like Glashütte Original. So continuing here, let's talk about this case because we have very flat, prominent lugs that are zaratsu polished. So they're brilliant in the finish work. But unfortunately, there's a lot of real estate there that can get scratched, and you can see hairline wear marks. If you look at the bezel, just with the flat shape and how that angles down, it creates an edge that I think will take the brunt or the majority of tiny hairline wear marks and nicks and dings and dents and, the little things that happen as we wear and use our lovely watches on a daily basis. And I'm always an advocate for no save queens. Wear your watches, enjoy your watches, make memories in the watches that you're proud to add to the collection. And when you do that, scratches happen. And I live with several scratches on a number of my different watches that I wear regularly. But I think it's a little bit different with Grand Seiko for the simple fact that you look at this watch and you almost see perfection. Perfection in the finish, the subtle brilliance of the details of the dial, the light play, the accuracy. You put on a Grand Seiko and you really feel special. I mean, you see the handcrafted nature of the movement of the case. These are hand assembled in the Shinshu watch studio in Japan, and you feel that quality. And so when you get such a work of art, such a thing of beauty, and then you scratch it up a little bit, I think that hurts our souls a little, as silly as that sounds, as watch enthusiasts. To maybe where a normal person, it wouldn't bother them all that much. But I think that's something we have to talk about and consider as we think about buying Grand Seiko and wearing Grand Seiko. Now, I have one other comment here as we wrap up the video. I think those that are contemplating buying Grand Seiko for the first time, they're very tempted with going with the premier movement choice, and that is spring drive. You know, the proprietary tech that's involved, the accuracy, that smooth, mesmerizing sweep of the seconds hand. I get that. And I think there could be some that look at this SOKO edition and say, yes, I love the 44GS case design. I love the subtle brilliance of the dial. I love everything about this, except for the fact that it doesn't have the latest 5-day spring drive caliber that carries the power reserve indicator on the reverse of the watch. And I think that could be a disappointing element for some that want to get into Grand Seiko and maybe really want to get this USA exclusive, but they want that new movement. And I can get that way of thinking. I think with Grand Seiko, and tell me what you guys think about this, they are so close to perfection. They're 99% perfect. And it's that 1% that it stands out in starker contrast than when you compare it to a watch that's maybe 95 or 90% perfect, where there are other and maybe more common or glaring areas for improvement, but you can live with those areas because the rest of the watch isn't so perfect, right? When you're so close to perfection, those areas that need to be addressed, they feel bigger than they really are. And maybe there's a fancy term for that I'm unaware of, but that's the feeling I get with Grand Seiko, and specifically with the SOKO edition. I think some of us would go, yes, I want more blue in that subtle linear dial, or I want the new 5-day spring drive caliber, or I want the bracelet from the 9 series here on this 44GS case design. And we can ask for these things, but if we take a step back and think about it, this watch is already very close to perfect. And I've really, oh my goodness, guys, I've really enjoyed my time with it. This has been lent in by Brent L. Miller Jewelers in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I've got to make some collection decisions here because I just bought a new watch from them, another Grand Seiko that's inbound. And I've been infected with the fever. I'm already shopping other Grand Seiko. And this is a topic for another video, but this one I might be adding to the collection as well because I think it's that good. But tell me what you guys think. Thank you for watching today. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.